All right, Roland, like I said, Roland's show was smoking today. Okay, here's an example of two Ivy League schools that absolutely went in opposite directions. One of them the correct direction, and the other one absolutely the incorrect direction. And the one that took the incorrect direction, which was Princeton, you can't explain to me why they did what they did other than hubris and them actually agreeing with the policies of the person whose name they refused to strip from the majority, if not all, of buildings, schools, and monuments on their campus.
Folks, tomorrow Harvard University will honor the slaves who were an integral part of the Ivy League institution. A plaque will be placed at the Wadsworth House.
And I apologize. Brown has already stepped forward in order to rectify their situation. In this particular case, they're talking about, obviously, Harvard.
Home of Harvard presidents. The plaque will pay respects to the 4 slaves who lived and worked in the building. Harvard president Drew Faust made the announcement in an opinion piece written in the Crimson, the school's newspaper. A portion of her article says, quote, Harvard was directly complicit in America's system of racial bondage from the college's earliest days in the 17th century until slavery in Massachusetts ended in 1783. And Harvard continued to be indirectly involved through extensive financial and other ties to the slave South up to the time of emancipation. This is our history and our legacy, one we must fully acknowledge and understand in order to truly move beyond the painful injustices at its core. Faust says Congressman John Lewis will also attend the ceremony.
All right, so this is an example of stepping up and trying to do the right thing in order to be able to move forward. Obviously, John Lewis being there, that's one of John Lewis's functions, just to be honest with you. Anytime there's progress, you know, they want to parade out John Lewis, and I guess there's really nothing all that wrong with that. But, you know, I got issues with John Lewis, and I'll just state those when other matters come up.
Now, at Princeton, they're also making headlines this morning. The Learning Institute says despite student complaints about racism and the history of its president, Woodrow Wilson, they will not remove Woodrow Wilson's name and image from public spaces, nor from its Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs. School officials say the contextualization is imperative to the Ivy League school's history, particularly the position Wilson took as Princeton's president to prevent the enrollment of black students and the policies he instituted as U.S. president that resulted in the resegregation of the federal civil service.
Now, Woodrow Wilson was one of the most racist presidents in the history of the United States, and this university wants to continue to celebrate him. Okay, exactly what kind of a message does that send out to not only the black student body of that school, but to America in general, where one of the top universities in this country basically is I'm not going to say supporting racism, but basically will not acknowledge the racist nature of one of its presidents and one of the presidents of the United States. It's almost like they're saying that they're proud of their history, and that what this guy did is not something that they should obviously be proud of.
Wilson was the 28th U.S. president from 1913 to 1921. He served as Princeton University's president from 1902 to 1910. I want to go to our panel here. First and foremost, I think it's important that you have to stop dealing with history and deal with history. Mm-hmm. What Harvard is doing to admit their role in slavery is important. Mm-hmm. But the issue with Princeton is that they treat Woodrow Wilson as this revered figure. And the reality is, you go on that campus, nearly everything is Woodrow Wilson and Woodrow Wilson. So the problem is, if you go to that school, you know nothing about how much of a racist he was. How, as the President of the United States, he further drove racism. And so for the President of the United States to be that bigoted and to treat him as this revered figure, I understand the students' concerns, and it is very problematic.
Yeah, I agree. I think, so there's two things. One, we had the same conversation about a year and a half ago about the Edmund Pettus Bridge and changing the name of that bridge there in Selma, Alabama. And so I think that when we talk about it on a campus, those students, one, have every correct intention about changing the culture on that campus and recognizing its real history. So another thing that they should add to that conversation, which they have been doing, is how do we teach the entire history? So if you have this picture somewhere and someone says in a tour, on a campus tour for newly admitted students, here's this awesome revered figure, do you say that this man was also, you know, one of those folks who was extremely racist and continued the segregation on our campuses? You don't have that in the script. You need to include that in the rest of the conversations that you're having when you're talking about the pride of your campus, and they need to continue to do that.
Well, and this is a problem with academic institutions. What happens is academic institutions like to tell the side of the story
That's
that
America.
favors.
That's not just the institution.
Yeah, no, but just in this.
Can't just say schools. That's the entire country.
Yeah, but in this context, to your point about the tours and all of those kinds of things,
And
they're not going to and the pride and Woodrow Wilson was a racist.
Yeah.
Now, so let's say that. And let's say everything else, but this kind of selective, and so for me in an academic institution where the idea is knowledge, it's developing, that's academic dishonesty, and that's the problem.
And you know, and Roland, I believe that first of all, Harvard, you're 13 years too late.
Yeah.
Because Ruth Simmons at Brown University raised this issue in 2003 when she appointed her Slavery and Justice Committee. That has resulted now in Brown having a Slavery and Justice Center, so where they deal with this issue more institutionally. So Harvard, catch up. You ought to be in the leadership, not behind, and the rest of you, including UNC, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, let's get on the bandwagon. Also, as far as Woodrow Wilson goes, he was so virulent a racist that not only did he resegregate the civil service, his wife helped to do this resegregation. She was his partner. And sweeping through the federal agencies to make sure that they resegregated. They also had a house party where they showed the film Birth of a Nation.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So his virulence wasn't just, quote, about the times. He actually took the nation backwards viciously.
Right.
So that history is transparency, and the universities should do more.
There's a couple places I can think of that need plaques to recognize what happened with slavery. This is not the only institution.
Oh, that's right.
Let's also talk about what happened on one campus. Black students at James.
All right, so that's just information for you to use it as you will, but in my opinion, knowledge is power. So all I'm trying to do is empower those of us who really have no idea of what our history was, what the history of this country was, so that when we're having a conversation trying to change the direction of the country for the better, we have requisite knowledge in order to have informed discussions.